Fresh off a win in the Busch Clash, Joe Gibbs Racing is wheeling and dealing. Martin Truex Jr. is sticking around a bit longer. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. It's a wild Wednesday of action. I just got done watching practice. That's right, NASCAR Cup Series practice. The first Cup practice session in almost a year. I gotta say, it was kind of refreshing. We'll talk more about it in a minute, but tonight is Daytona 500 pole qualifying. It'll also set the lineups for the two dual races tomorrow night. Speed Week is well underway. Action on the track every single night this week. That's super exciting. Also, I want to remind you guys, if you haven't checked out the first edition of the Out of the Groove Weekly Viewers Guide just yet, that link is down in the description. This week's edition will be out Friday morning. Make sure you're subscribed to the Viewers Guide as well so you don't miss this week's issue. Also, the Out of the Groove Podcast Network is off and rolling. New episodes of A Lifetime in NASCAR are available for you to listen to as well if you're a big NASCAR history fan. And tonight, live after the Daytona 500 qualifying, is the NASCAR Weekly Podcast right here on my channel, so I hope to see you all there. I think that's enough housekeeping for today. Out of the Groove is sponsored by Alka-Seltzer, which is available at Walmart. Let's start this episode by talking about practice. As AI would say, we're talking about practice? Well, yes, in fact, because practice has become an endangered species in stock car racing. Like I said, this was the first Cup Series practice session since March? I guess since Phoenix, right? The last race before the pandemic. Almost a full year since the last Cup Series practice session. Just a nice little comfortable happy hour. Some split strategies. Some teams were running in a pack to see how their cars would handle in traffic. Other teams were focused on single car runs, preparing for tonight's qualifying session. The Toyotas were fastest in a group, with Bubba Wallace actually setting the quick time in this practice session. The four Gibbs cars followed right behind him. But as far as single car runs were concerned, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, some of the Hendrick Chevys seemed to be very, very quick, although they were a little further down the overall leaderboard because a lot of teams did some drafting practice. The five Toyotas lined up for much of this practice session were consistently turning laps around an average speed of 199 miles an hour, almost hitting the 200 mile an hour average lap mark. So speeds, when you get the whole pack together on Sunday, it will easily be over 200 miles an hour with regularity. Going to be a fast Daytona 500 yet again. NASCAR can only make those spoilers so tall. They can only create so much drag, so I think what you see is what you're going to get. Going to be a wild race on Sunday. I am glad NASCAR has not made wholesale changes to the rules package since last year. You know, last year at the super speedways, they did some things to try and slow the cars down a tiny bit, but nothing too dramatic. The super speedways the last couple of years have been so fun to watch. Yes, they have featured some harrowing crashes and some scary near misses, but the racing more often than not has been can't miss, edge of your seat from lap 1 to lap 188 or 200. These races have been so fun to watch. As far as anyone knows, the rules package for this year's Daytona 500 is basically the same as what they ran at Talladega last fall, the most recent super speedway race, so I'm very excited for that. Talking about practice though, I must say, watching that happy hour on FS1, it was so refreshing. We've talked a lot about qualifying, how many of us want NASCAR to bring at least some form of qualifying back as soon as possible, so we're not setting the lineup by random draw every week, but we haven't talked that much about practice. I'm still of the belief that you don't need 2, 3, 4 hours of practice for any one race, but I've been saying for almost a year now that one solid happy hour, like we saw today here at Daytona, that would be perfect. If we could have that every single week, it's just nice. Watching today's practice session was honestly a lot of fun. There wasn't really anything going on the racetrack, but it was a great way to catch up on all the week's storylines, and it was a great chance for TV to showcase really every driver. Nearly every driver in the field got talked about or shown on camera at least once. Mike Joy, Jeff Gordon, Clint Boyer, Larry McReynolds were able to share their opinions on some of the drivers. I mean, they talked about Derek Cope for a few minutes. They talked about Timmy Hill briefly while I was watching. Of course, they hit on the drivers with new teams like Larson, Bubba Wallace. You know, it's a Wednesday morning, and usually practices will be like Friday mornings or Friday afternoons. You know, not that many people are going to be able to watch, but those who are, it's a great way to preview the weekend and catch everyone up to speed and just get a glimpse of what the race this weekend is going to hold for us. It's a way to tease the action that everyone's going to see on Sunday. So after watching today's practice, I have to say, please NASCAR, I'm almost begging you at this point, please bring back practice and qualifying as soon as possible. I know this year is going to be weird. They've really only committed to having practice at like 8 races on the Cup schedule this year. I wish it was more, but okay. I understand they're saving teams money, not having to prepare backup cars as often, all that type of stuff. I understand it's still difficult times out there, but come 2022 with the next gen car, especially a brand new car, we need practice and qualifying back at every single race. That should be the goal. If something unforeseen comes up and that's not possible, okay, but right now, the way things seem to be heading and trending, that should be the goal. practice and qualifying at all 36 plus races next year. Make it happen, NASCAR. I'm begging you. Anyway, we've spent enough time talking about practice. Let's talk about free agency and the beginnings, maybe the stirrings of NASCAR silly season. Things aren't getting silly just yet. Last week, Joe Gibbs Racing announced an extension with longtime driver Denny Hamlin, a multi-year deal with him and FedEx to stay in the 11 car. This week, Joe Gibbs Racing announced another extension with another high-profile Cup Series driver. Martin Truex Jr. will be staying with the 19 team for at least one more year. As per usual, Joe Gibbs Racing did not disclose specific terms of the deal. However, in their announcement, I thought it was interesting that it lacked the verbiage multi-year contract. You know, when they announced Hamlin's extension last week, all the talk was, hey, it's multiple years. Look how committed we are to Hamlin. Look how committed Hamlin is to us. Look at FedEx loves us. It's a multi-year deal. Didn't see any of that language in today's announcement about Martin Truex Jr., which leads many to believe it's a one-year extension through 2022, which I must say is quite interesting. Martin Truex Jr. is 40 years old, roughly the same age actually as Denny Hamlin. Truex has won 27 races in his Cup Series career, but 24 of them have come in the last 5 seasons since he joined Toyota, first with Furniture Row, most recently, of course, with Joe Gibbs Racing. That's an average of 4.8 wins a season since joining Toyota. Since joining Joe Gibbs specifically, he's won 8 races across the last 2 seasons. Of course, most of those came in 2019, but he was still very competitive last year, made the round of 8. Martin Truex Jr. is still easily one of the top, I would say definitely top 10 drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series, arguably top 5 or 6. I should do like a power rankings of all the Cup Series drivers. I'd probably have Truex around 7th, maybe 7th or 8th. Again, we saw last year without Cole Pern, he went from winning 7 races to 1 win. So, you know, he's still good, but I'm not going to say he's as good as like Harvick and Chase Elliott and some of those other top guys in the sport right now. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. This is a good deal, I think, for Joe Gibbs Racing more than anything. I'm sure Martin Truex Jr., yeah, he's 40 years old, but I think he plans to race a few more years. I'm sure he was hoping for a more long-term commitment, especially when you have a seat at one of the powerhouse organizations as Truex does right now. You want that stability. You want that long-term commitment. He didn't get it. At least from the sounds of it, he did not get it with this contract. This is a good deal, I think, for Joe Gibbs Racing because it allows them to stay flexible. They keep a really good veteran driver in one of their cars for a whole nother season, but it also gives them the ability to examine their situation come 2022. We'll have a year of the next gen car under our belts. We'll see how Truex adapts to the new car, but also Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. We talked about this last week. Their farm system, using a baseball term, their development system is a little beefier than it was the last couple of years. Harrison Burton's coming off a season where he won 4 Xfinity Series races. They just added veteran driver, can I call him a veteran driver? He's like 30 now, Daniel Hemrick to their Joe Gibbs Racing Xfinity team. Ty Gibbs, really exciting young teenager, is going to make some Xfinity starts this year. We could see him full-time by next season. Brandon Jones is coming off a multi-win season as well. If we look at trucks, they've added a driver with Cup Series experience, John Hunter Nemechek, to the KBM Truck Series team. Chandler Smith, another promising teenager, has landed that other Truck Series ride full-time this season. So Toyota's got a pretty solid crop of young drivers right now in their Truck and Xfinity Series systems. And on the Cup Series side of things, they're opening a brand new team this year with 2311 Racing, a team that's teased potential expansion in the coming years. 2, 3, 4 cars at some point is not out of the question. So Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing, I'm sure, want to keep their options open. Martin Truex Jr. is going to be put under the microscope, I think, the next 2 seasons. After winning only 1 race last year with new crew chief James Small, I think Joe Gibbs is going to be looking for improvement this year. They're going to be looking for improvement with the next gen in 2022. And if Truex regresses, because he is now in his 40s, and historically speaking, the data suggests once you hit your 40s, maybe your best years are behind you. If Truex regresses here the next couple of years, Joe Gibbs Racing is going to have no issue putting a different driver in that 19 car. My guess would be Harrison Burton, perhaps a John Hunter Nemechek if he flies through the Truck and Xfinity ranks in the next 24 months. Heck, I'd like to see Ty Gibbs land that ride at like 20 years old. If he, of course, performs in Xfinity this year and perhaps next year. But I'd love to see another hot young prospect fly through the ranks with flying colors and have all these expectations set on him. I want to see the next big thing. I want to see the next Jeff Gordon, and you never know, that could be Ty Gibbs. So Toyota and JGR have a very bright future with a lot of the young drivers currently in their system. Martin Truex Jr. is still really good in the here and now, but this is a very team-friendly deal, assuming it is only 1 year. It gives Joe Gibbs Racing flexibility after the 2022 season. So I'm happy that Truex will stay in a competitive car for another year beyond this year, so he'll be there through at least 2022, but this certainly smells like Joe Gibbs is looking to the future. If Harrison Burton has another year in Xfinity like he did this last year, he's going to be due for a Cup Series ride before you know it. Of course, I talked about Ty Gibbs. He could be great. Daniel Hemrick has already won Cup Series Rookie of the Year despite having an unremarkable season with RCR. Could he rebuild his image, rebuild his resume this year and land a Cup spot at some point? You know, 2311 Racing might have some open seats as well. It doesn't all have to fall on Joe Gibbs Racing's shoulders to field all of these drivers, but let me know what you guys think. Is this a good deal for Martin Truex Jr.? Is this a better deal for Joe Gibbs Racing? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know what you think might have happened behind the scenes. Is sponsorship a concern? We saw Stanley DeWalt on Truex's Clash car last night, so perhaps the power tool brands are starting to migrate over to Truex. That could be good news for Martin Truex Jr., but let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Are you excited about future practice sessions this year? Do you want to see practice come back full time? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Out of the Groove. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR daily, opinions, predictions, all that great stuff. Thank you as always to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. I could not do this show without your continued support each and every month. Daytona 500 qualifying tonight, and immediately following it will be the NASCAR Weekly Podcast live right here on this channel. You aren't going to want to miss it. We're going to talk all things Daytona Clash. We're going to talk Daytona 500, dual predictions, all that great stuff. You aren't going to want to miss it. Be sure to tune in. I'll see y'all tonight. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care. I will see you very soon.